Hello, you're welcome to Your Image on OGTV Abeokuta. And today's edition will be a continuation of what we discussed last week. And we talk about strengthening Nigeria's institution and democracy. And my guests in the studio last week, though they are still very much with me today, they talk about different issues that have to do with the image of Nigeria. They talk about democracy and what are the veritable tools of democracy in Nigeria. They are with me in the studio today to continue with the topic, strengthening Nigeria's institution and democracy. On my right, I have Mr. Simon Otumala. He is a political scientist. He lectures in the Department of Political Science, Federal College of Education, Oshiele, Abeokuta. Mr. Otumala, you're welcome to the program.
Thank you very much, sir.
And on my immediate left, also I have the chairman of the Ogun State chapter of the Nigerian Institute of Public Relations, NIPR, Ogun State, Mr. Lekon Tugunwa. He also lectures in the Department of Mass Communication, Moshood Abiola Polytechnic, Abeokuta. You're welcome to the program, sir.
Thank you very much for having me.
And also last week, he was with us, the former special assistant to the Ogun State government on youth affairs, Comrade Ife Kayode Akimbode. You're also welcome to this week's edition of the program.
My pleasure to be here once again.
I told you last week we talked about how we can strengthen Nigeria's institution and how do we play democracy at any level. How do we find a lasting solution to a myriad of problems and challenges that are confronting Nigeria? But this week, we'll look inward at some of the solutions to the problems that they highlighted last week. And let me start from Mr. Otumala. Yeah, we want us to look at the political perspective of when you're talking about politics, how do we strengthen the institution? What are the political approaches to these problems? Let's look at the overview of this issue now. We are talking about public relations. So what should be the political solution to the problem? You highlighted some of the problems last week, that we are not ripe for democracy. So your opinion now. How do we now find a lasting solution to that particular problem you highlighted last week?
Good day, our viewers, and thanks for joining us on the program again this week. Moving forward, we have already established the fact that there are challenges undermining democratization in Nigeria. For us to live where we are and get better, the institutions that enable democracy in Nigeria needs to be strengthened. And what are these institutions? Like we mentioned last week, Independent National Electoral Commission. Beyond the face value neutrality as obtained in Nigeria today, that institution must be neutral in practice and in content. They must not be under any pressure whatsoever. Secondly, the security forces that provide security in the conduct of election, they must not take side. And in not taking side is in the fact that they must have the situation under control. And the situation under control will help us check the recurrence of violence, ballot box snatching. It is alien for us to say that Nigeria democracy is 20 years this year, since 1999 till date. We are still contending with the issue of snatching ballot box in a civil process. We are still contending with the issue of buying votes, where campaign, the next election that we're going to have anywhere, people should be prepared by now. There was a picture within the week of the PM of one country getting to meet the citizens one after the other. If you can't go yourself, you have your foot soldiers. Campaign and convention can help us do a whole lot of things. So the security institutions must be on top of the game. That is, they must not, though their appointments and coming on board is a function of the government in power, but all practice of democracy must be devoid of issues that get to do with sentiment.
There should not be sentiment.
There should not be sentiment in our democratic
before
process.
We go further, now we are talking about independence of INEC. The INEC is not independent enough.
Yes.
We should have trust in INEC. That when INEC conducts election, we should have confidence in that. In what way do you think INEC can repose so much confidence in the people?
Now, INEC reposing so much confidence, INEC being able to buy confidence or earn their confidence from the people, involves the fact that, you know, there are pockets of election in this country where after the election, it might not go as expected, but people will say, no, INEC had been able to do this election to an extent, not 100%, not 90%, but to a considerable extent. INEC had worked very hard. Until we get to that point, that institution is not neutral.
Okay, INEC, having confidence in INEC. Now let me go to Mr. Tugua as a PR practitioner, as a chairman of NIPR. Let's go inward now.
Okay.
Confidence is lost in INEC. No trust. When you mention INEC is synonymous to many Nigerians, synonymous to a political party. So how do we now measure what's the level of PR, the image that INEC can gather so that they can have so much confidence in whatever they do in this country?
Well, I think the first thing is for INEC to really agree that yes, it hasn't got the confidence of the people. Like in terms of credibility, in terms of trust, it hasn't actually got there. That is, if we want to be straight with ourselves, if we want to face,
to be sincere,
and be face business, and now say, okay, what are the problems? Why is it that people are not really trusting us? Why is it that we do not have that confidence in us and in whatever we do? Once and INEC admits that, they can now begin to look at, okay, what are the things that we need to do to really build confidence? The fact remains that if the people do not have the confidence in an electoral organization like INEC, then the issue of credibility of elections conducted by such a body will still be put to question. So the fact remains that we must admit that we haven't got it right, whether at INEC level or at any other level of Nigerian society. We must admit that we haven't got it right. And once we have been able to do that, then we'll be able to really know the next step to take. Now, as PR professionals, yes, we constitute a group that has been campaigning for strong institutions. We should have visionary leadership. We shouldn't have leaders that are stronger than institutions. And that is the basis of our problem. You see, we have examples of states, countries with strong leaders and weak institutions, and what happened to them. And we have examples across the world of countries with strong institutions and visionary leaders, and we see their situation. We recall that in recent past, we could recall what happened in Zaire, now Democratic Republic of Congo, when Mobutu Sese Seko was in charge. It was richer than Zaire. It was bigger, stronger than the state. At a point, the country could not pay the salaries of workers. And they met him, said, please, give us a loan to pay salaries. He said that he wasn't really sure that his countrymen would pay him back. And what happened eventually to him? We have cases like that. We have the case of Nasimbi of Eyadema, who eventually handed over to his son because he became stronger than the state. We have the case of Ofeboni of Cote d'Ivoire, who said that in his village, a king does not know the person that succeeds him, and that means he must die in office, and eventually died in office. And what happened afterwards? So the fact is that for us to have true development, both the leaders and the led, we must have institutions that work. When institutions are working, the leader does not really need to struggle to get things done. Look at America. Recently, when Trump came on board, he wanted to play some games, but the state said, no, you can't do this. You can't tinker with the fundamental values of state here, of our nation. And even at the point when his wife didn't meet him at the state house, they said, woman, if you are the first lady of this man, you must join him here. Not that you stay in your private home and the man is here, you claim that you are his first lady. But what happens in Nigeria? We do this with impunity. The leader will not rule based on the fundamentals of governance or nationhood. You prefer to say, okay, this is how I want to do it. And that means it's stronger than the state. And that is why we have people as leaders that will determine the fortune of a country, not based on the fundamentals of governance, the basic things that we have in the constitution, but on their whims and caprices.
Okay, on their whims and caprices, that the leaders should not be bigger than the institution. Now, going back to Comrade Fekayode Akinbode, the youths of this nation are seen as weaker vessels. Weaker vessels, I mean, they can easily be manipulated. They are used for political violence. They are used as political thugs, and they believe that when they give them stipend, they can do anything. Now, how do we liberate the youth of this country from political shenanigans? That's number one. Number two, how do we tell these youths, how do we conscientize them, tell them that, oh, you are truly the leaders of tomorrow? Not as it is, not in principle, but in the real sense of it.
Thank you, moderator. I think that we're looking at this issue from the prism of the young people as the only tool for electoral violence, which to me is essentially not true. Political violence is not limited to young people alone.
Can you expatiate?
It will shock you to know that men in their 50s, men in their 60s are still tools for political violence. It's not about the age bracket of the young people. The challenge we have in our nation is that our institutions are weak. And if we have weak institutions, people will do things with impunity and go scot-free. I mentioned last week about a woman who was burnt after the election.
Yes.
As we talk today, nobody has been arrested. We have seen live videos where people went to polling unit, shot. We saw policemen and women running for their lives. Till today, no single individual has been arrested. Now, you are looking at the young people.
Yes.
Let's look at the young element in Nigerian society. The critical challenge of any nation is the inability of such leadership to provide enabling environment for business opportunities to thrive, to create employment, to ensure that education is affordable to the people. Now, most of the schools are no longer functional. Our institutions are no longer funded. Lecturers don't get paid. There are no books for research. Lecturers sometimes for 8-9 months they don't get paid. Now, when they don't get paid, it affects their own output. And the students don't have a choice. They are engaged into crimes and criminality.
Let me interject. Even these youths we are talking about, empowerment. Don't you think some of them are lazy?
I'm not talking about handouts, like giving them 5 naira, 10 naira. Any nation that will develop, essentially in this modern world, will look at IT.
Okay.
We look at farming. Look, in the next 20 years, oil will no longer be relevant. What will drive this country is going to be agriculture and IT. But we don't have a government that is forward-looking. What are they talking about? They are basically chasing about crude oil per barrel. Nobody is looking at agricultural revolution as a tool for employment, as a tool for revenue, foreign revenue earning.
Exchange.
Nobody is looking at that. Rather, they play lip service. We are going to do it. We are doing green revolution. We have not seen any practical output. What is important today is that the young people in this country should realize that the men in their 50s and 60s are going. They have nowhere to go. Look at Japan. Look at students. Look at what they are doing. Gone are the days when we were united with one voice. Gone are the days when the youth and students of this country are the opinion holders of this nation. They will talk on national issue. They will unite as a student body and as a youth body, and they will ensure that the federal government will do what is right and do what is just. But what do we have now?
But don't you think these youth we are talking about are not intellectually capable?
It is debatable.
Maybe that is why they use them as political machines.
Let me tell you what the difference. The difference in our days and the present generation, we fought under the military regime, and we had a common enemy, and it was the military.
Yes.
There was no bias. Nobody was supporting Navy, Air Force, or Army.
Yes.
The military must just go. But now, democracy and interest, political parties and interest. So the young people does not have a common ground to harmonize and aggregate opinion and ensuring that things are done the right time. If party A has your uncle or cousin in power and you does not believe what that party is doing in government is right, it's for just your uncle to call you to corner, said, I'm using this money to send you to school, and then he would ensure that they destroy whatever plans you have. But beyond politics, beyond the image for this country, is that the youth are the future and the image of this country. They represent the glory of this nation. Look at the entertainment industry.
Yes.
The only image and PR we have for this country is from the sporting world and the entertainment industry. They are the one flying the flags of this country higher. We should also ensure that our youth look beyond parochial party sentiments, get involved in democratic process, ensure that credible, intelligent, focused, dynamic, visionary young people are voted into power, and ensure that they do what is right and just for the development of Nigerian nation.
You are still watching Your Image on OGTV Abeokuta, and of course you can watch us on DSTV channel 260, on GoTV channel 100, and of course on StarTime channel 113. And of course you can also log on to our YouTube channel, follow PR Primus on YouTube, on Facebook, on Twitter, and don't also forget that we are also on Instagram, www.prprimusltd.com.ng. And also, the forum is also open for sponsorship. If you want to sponsor your program, get in touch with us, PR Primus. We are always there, of course, to let people know what you have in stock. This is a platform for you to advertise your products and services. You are saying watching Your Image on OGTV in Abeokuta. And Mr. Simon, coming before, was talking about the future of the youth. He mentioned that the entertainment industry, he mentioned sporting activities, that these are just the two major areas where the youth of this country excel. In politics, is money back? If you don't have money, you can't go into politics. So what are the approaches that we can use to enhance the youth involvement in politics?
Thank you. The youths of the present generation, we must be very sincere, is one group of persons that have almost lost focus. With all due respect to everybody involved, I'm a youth also. And while you were talking, you said intellectually sound. Beyond entertainment, beyond sports, yes, in the next 2 decades, 3 decades, we have IT and we have agricultural revolution. And the driver of these issues will still be the youth. For us to move forward, for youth to be involved, though they're not too young to rule, bill had been passed. We have good number of youth holding positions across the country. The Speaker of Oyo State is a youth. We have a senator. The governor of Kogi State is around 40-something. 45.
And we have about 3 members of the Ogun State House of Assembly who are very young.
In their 20s.
In their 20s.
Yeah, in their
We have a
20s.
24-year-old body in Oyo State Assembly.
Yes. House of Rep member from Ondo State, Young Alaji, is a youth. Now, how did these people emerge? We must be able to interrogate that process. When he was also talking, he talked about a common enemy during
The military.
the military. Today, we also have a common interest, which is to seize power.
Seize
which
power.
is, yes, which is,
Democratically.
yes, democratically. Democratically, because I don't go to the prison.
Yes.
So, which is to get power democratically. Now, we must be able to agree, because of the level of poverty across the state, there's a tendency for divide amongst the ranks of the youth. But if we have a common interest, we can go back to the days of the military and pursue that interest and get back to power and begin to chart this course. And in charting this course, we begin to establish the institutions that we want. But the problem also that we must look at is that, as Karl Marx said in his Revolution thesis, what is the possibility that the class that is coming to replace the older class will not be worse
Than the present.
yes,
That we are trying to change.
Yes, that we are trying to change. So those are issues we must critically look at, because it is beyond strengthening institutions. It is beyond getting into governance. Without mentioning names, the youngest senator went to a store in Abuja, almost, and within the week, the debate for the censoring of media space, the guy rose up in the chambers and kicked against and was in support of the bill because he said that action had been melted on him in times past. So the issues of us getting back to the right track goes beyond the youth coming back. We must know that in coming back, we are coming for a purpose, and that our purpose must be beyond the now, because in the next 30, 40, 50, 60 years, you will see oil and pass.
Just like he mentioned.
Yes.
Oil will not be no more relevant. Okay.
But everybody must eat in the next 70 years.
Okay, Mr. Tubua, a quick one. So what do you think is the lasting solution? How do we strengthen Nigeria's institution and democracy without itches?
A lot of communication and public education must be involved.
Essentially.
We must consistently emphasize or reorientate ourselves on the fundamental values that will strengthen our institutions. So a lot of communication and public education is important. Unfortunately, the agencies of government that's supposed to do reorientation, communication, they are not really performing. But for those of us in professional bodies, civil societies, that believe that, things are not right and there are steps that we need to take, then we can aggregate our opinion and positions and commence that orientation. The fact remains that even with the youth that we are talking about, and there is this argument and whether they are lazy or not, we need to reorientate them. The leaders and the led need reorientation to begin to identify the right values which were in place before now. In those days, when you appeared in an environment as a 20-year-old or 25-year-old with a very big, expensive car, you will be looking at, who is this person?
Where have we got the money?
Member of society, your colleagues wouldn't want to really identify with you. But today, a man or a guy of 25 years old that is driving a Jeep or a big car, no one is asking questions. The concern is, he has made it. Without trying to identify the source of that wealth. So that value is no longer there. What is dominant now is a quick rich thing. I just must make money. And we have some of our musicians even really
trying to promote
that whatever, let me just have money. So I dare say that for most of our youth, that is what is on their mind.
That's what's on their mind.
So the issue of hard work, due diligence is not paramount. What is important is, this man has made it, I must made it, and we don't want to know the source of that wealth. So public education and communication, to reorientate ourselves and direct our focus on those values is very important.
And on a final note, Comrade Ife, to the youth, what's your message then?
You don't have any other country but Nigeria. If you go north, go left, go right, go come back, you are going to this country. Unite with one vision, unite with one purpose, elect credible young Nigerians who will salvage this country, or else all of us will regret it.
We need people who can salvage this country, or else we'll find it difficult to call this country our own. And that's where we draw the curtains of this week's edition of Your Image. We have been talking on how to strengthen Nigeria's institutions and democracy. And I'm happy that I have people in the studio who know their onions, who have contributed immensely and who have given us a lasting solution to the problems confronting Nigeria. I want to thank Mr. Simon Otumala. Thank you very much for being on this program. Mr. Aliko Togua, thank you so much.
Thank you for having me here.
And Comrade Ife Kayode Akinbode.
Always my pleasure.
And you can also, of course, sponsor your product and services on this program. Advert placement also, you can bring it to this program. This discussion continues on our social media platforms, on YouTube, on Facebook, on Instagram, and also on the Twitter. And you can also log onto our website www.prprimusltd.com.ng. Until we meet next week for another interesting edition of Your Image, God bless Nigeria.